So welcome everybody to this event that we're launching now. It's the first event in a series called Europe Talk Solidarity. And this is the first one where we launch a study that has been conducted by the Resource Center of the European Solidarity Corps called 4Thought. As with this new program of European Solidarity Corps, the question emerged, what is solidarity? How is it defined? And so a couple of processes have been started by the Resource Center on trying to understand what is solidarity and on starting a series of conceptual debates on solidarity. There should have been a meeting in Vienna to kick this off, middle of March, but due to Corona, it got cancelled actually just 2 days before it took place. And so we decided to move some parts online, and the Resource Center for European Solidarity Corps is hosting these online events. Today we have with us, for instance, Melanie Jacobs, the director of the Resource Center. We have also Romina from the team of the Resource Center. And we will have a bit later with us the two authors of the study that has been done, Susie Nicodemi and Snezana Baclija. And we also have more people involved here. We have some people on Facebook who are not in this meeting now, but who take care as well of this event. We have Kristina and Anja also from the Austrian National Agency, taking care of the posts that you put on Facebook on the live event, and also forwarding them to us so we can see some of the feedback and answer some of the questions, hopefully. Also to mention that the Finnish NA has been strongly involved in the creation of this series of events. And what's happening today is that first we're going to get some introduction by the Resource Center on these processes that have been started. Then we will also see the first video that has been produced on solidarity. It's also part of the series. Later we will have Susie and Snezana to present their findings, to officially launch this 4Thought study. And it would be nice to have a toast together also, as this was a long process. So if you wish to join us, also be prepared with a little drink to have a toast with us in about 40-50 minutes. And then there will be some time for Q&A to see what you post on Facebook on the event wall, and you give some answers to it, or simply see what is your feedback so far. The format today will not be too interactive. It's more a launch. We show what has been produced in this past month, but more events will follow that are more interactive. So there will also be a webinar, for instance, where we can really then discuss with each other, go in breakout groups, etc. Maybe some hints on how to best enjoy this meeting today is that there will be some interactive parts. There will be a Mentimeter, some polls. There is the chance to post on the Facebook wall. So we have had the experience that this is maybe easier if you watch from a laptop or a tablet, for instance, if you use your mobile phone for the Menti afterwards, so you don't have to leave the live stream. Also, please be aware that there is a 30-second delay actually between what we're doing in our Zoom meeting and the launch and what you see on Facebook. So there might be some delays, some time until the answer comes to you. Also, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm MarCus Vrecer from Austria, and I will host this meeting today together with the Resource Center. And I think that's enough from our side. Put your questions anytime on Facebook and the feedback anytime. We have Kristina and Anja scanning it and forwarding it to us. And with this, I'm very happy to pass the word on actually to Melanie Jacobs and Romina to tell us a bit about the history and context of all.
Thank you, Marcus. Hello from my side as well. I'm very happy to represent the Resource Center here today in this launching of our study. Maybe just to introduce a bit to you who the Resource Center is, in case you don't know that or you're not too familiar with us. We are a team of 3. It's Romina, who you also see now, me and Kristina, who is also in our team. So the 3 of us. We started our work at the end of 2018. We are hosted by the Austrian National Agency for Erasmus Plus and Solidarity Corps, the youth agency, which is hosted at IZ. So we are based in Vienna. And we are part of the SALTO network, the Salto resource centers that support implementation of the Erasmus Plus program and Solidarity Corps program. And that is also one of our main missions. The main mission is that we as a resource center for the Solidarity Corps, we support organizations in the youth field and beyond with the implementation of this relatively new program, European Solidarity Corps. The program itself also started autumn 2018, also still very, very young. And our main fields of work is that we define 4 of those. So that on the one hand is that we explore this concept of solidarity. What is solidarity? Like Marcus said, it's the main questions we get from the beginning, but more to that later and today. Based on what we find in the solidarity exploration, we coordinate and organize networking activities, training, seminars, all kinds of activities for national agencies, for organizations, for anybody interested in the Solidarity Corps. We promote the use of the Solidarity Corps to understand solidarity, to live solidarity as a tool. And we want to build up a community of organizations that have been active in the Solidarity Corps. So it's a multi-level field of work that we are in and enjoying very much. But at the basis of this is really this exploration of solidarity. Like I said, it's one of the main questions that we received from the beginning. Okay, we have Solidarity Corps now. What is it? What is a solidarity? How should we understand this? And it turns out that people understand different things and different have different associations with it. So what we thought is, okay, when we explore the concept of solidarity, we want to contribute to this discussion. We want to contribute to the development of a common understanding, of a common narrative on solidarity. So not having one definition, but just to see what do people understand and why is it so different, and also why is it so important? Because there is a need for solidarity in Europe. We see it right now in the past weeks. One of the reasons why we're having this online is that nobody's able to travel at the moment, and we have a pandemic going on, and that caused a lot of questions on solidarity. We see the news every day, so it's a topic that is more current than ever. So we want to stimulate the thinking on it, to stimulate the discussion on it, to see if we can get to a common understanding, and to see that we get to a relevant understanding for the youth field mainly. When we have this common understanding, we want to motivate actors, organizations to engage and to act in solidarity. We want to, by giving them the tools to do so, to inspire them and to see if they can implement projects and live solidarity through that. So yeah, what we did, we said, okay, let's start this process. Let's find out what solidarity is. We thought in December 2018, let's commission a study and let's get some kind of a definition and get this started. And yeah, that became a big journey. It became a quest for solidarity. It was more than we thought. I think it was a tremendous journey in this searching for solidarity, and this journey went, I think, much further than we ever thought, and was more adventurous than we ever thought. And as every good journey, it became a very inspiring journey as well, and with some magnificent travel companions. So we enjoyed that very much. The result of that you will hear about today. Again, just to say that now that nobody can actually travel, the virtual traveling is actually something very engaging and very exciting as well. I think that the journey we did towards solidarity is an example of that. So yeah, we have this journey so far that resulted in the study that we will present to you today, that we are very proud of. The travel companions for today, I want to thank already right now. So that's, of course, the team for the Solidarity Corps Resource Center, the 2 authors, Susie and Snezana, that did a tremendous job that you will learn about just in a few minutes. And of course, also the team of today that transferred this offline event to a, I think, exciting online event. So thank you for that. and join us on our next stops of the journey and quest for solidarity. So have a good meeting today.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you. Romina, may I pass the word to you?
Sure, I'm happy to be part of this journey. In fact, I think I'm a very privileged person to be able to join this journey. I jumped in the train, let's say, in March last year when I joined the Resource Center team. And I was very happy to be in charge with the report, and not only the report, because as Melanie said, we want to bring solidarity to our lives. And then together with the team, we thought, how can we make that happen? How can we bring this concept closer to you, to every one of you, at home, in our community, in our day-to-day activity, in our projects that are supported by European Solidarity Corps program. So the first step was indeed the study, which I'm very happy with. But then we said, in order to make history and to bring solidarity even closer to youth work, we need more than that. And this is how the idea of Europe Talks about solidarity appeared. We want to transform, to start from this study and to transform this journey into a series of events. And it was planned initially to have the first Europe Talks about solidarity in Vienna this year in March. Unfortunately, the face-to-face event had to be cancelled, but we said, nevertheless, we continue to bring our message to you. And that's why we decided to have this first launch about the study, and it will continue. We will have also a webinar where we will try to have a more deep conversation about solidarity, because as Melanie said, solidarity is not just a simple term, and you will hear it also during the study. It's a word that generates a lot of questions, and one of our aim is also to bring critical reflection and critical thinking about solidarity. This is the first event when we will do that, and the next one will be, as I said, a webinar, and then we also will invite some experts to share their thoughts about where solidarity comes from and where it goes. This is one of the things that we are planning to do under the brand Europe Talks, and we are very happy and very hopefully to have the event face-to-face next year, hopefully in Finland, because our partner, the National Agency from Finland, offered to host us. Another thing that we are planning to do in order to bring the study close to you is to have also a more dynamic material for reading the study, and it's a video animated, a video based on animation, and I can share it with you. It's the first time ever when it's being launched. We worked a bit on it. It was a whole process, and we are very happy. And I want to say thank you to the company that we were very close to, ZM Media. And it is only the first one, and 3 more are to come. So if you allow me, I think now is the moment, right? The first video, animated video about solidarity is about to happen. And I will want to share, in order to do that, to share the screen and also the sound. And I can also test my digital competence. So thank you for bearing that with me, and enjoy.
What is solidarity? Is it unity? Is it love? Is it empathy? Is it hope in our shared worries? Is it the young people marching together in the streets to save our shared home? Is it the idea that we are all in this together? Solidarity is a complex term. It is hard to put into simple words, but it is something we need now more than ever, and it's something that starts with you. That's why the European Solidarity Corps Resource Centre has conducted a research project called 4Thought for Solidarity, aiming to reach a common understanding of the concept of solidarity and the need for it in our communities. By understanding it, the project aims to bring solidarity closer to young people especially, to help them reach for it and inspire them to believe in it through youth work, volunteering, local projects and programmes such as the European Solidarity Corps. Through surveys, interviews and desk mapping, we examined the responses of 4 different groups of people: policymakers, practitioners, researchers and young people active in Europe, asking them what solidarity means to them. Each had a different understanding of it, depending on context, background, or even personal bias. But our research has discovered 4 important pillars which provide common ground and a starting point in the quest to define solidarity: empathy, active citizenship, human rights, and inclusion. Maybe solidarity is the idea that while a single twig might break with force, a bunch of twigs stay strong. Individually, you can easily be conquered, but together, you are invincible. Solidarity is up to us. It is in us. It is in the young people who can take charge of the future by working together for a better world, a more just society, and a healthier environment. It is in their mentors who guide them to act together for the common good. Solidarity is a core principle in European youth work. It is a gift we give each other. What does it mean to you? Explore the 4Thought research project. Discover the principles and actions that make up solidarity, and how you can use that knowledge to take an active part in shaping the future.
That was it. Thank you very much. And I hope you will enjoy. The link is freely to be shared and distributed and also discussed a lot.
Thank you so much, Romina, for presenting the first videos. If you're interested in the publications we are showing today, the video and the 4Thought study, they're all available on the website of Salto Resource Center, the Behaviours Resource Center, and on the YouTube channel also of the Resource Center. Also, sometimes I'm looking over there, sorry, that's not unpolite, it's because I have a second laptop there, but I also follow the live stream, and where I see also what my colleagues extract already from your feedback on Facebook. It's very nice, we have already more than 200 people online, thanks a lot, and already some questions and feedback coming in, that's great. Just keep it posting there, and after the presentation of Snezana and Susie on the 4Thought project, we will go into this feedback and questions, and there will be time for it. But keep them going already now as we go. When you see something that inspires you or that triggers a question or a feedback, just please put it. We're very curious about it. And we will also later give it to the authors and to Romina to maybe say also something on it. So with this, it is time for Snezana and Susie to take the stage. They will introduce themselves and they will screen share a presentation they made for us with a summary and a visual presentation of the results they had and the process they had. And with this, I pass to my dear colleagues, Snezana and Susie. The stage is yours.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hi, it's just the two of us left, it seems. Hi everyone. Although actually what I'm looking at is me and Susie on the screen, but I've been told that there are some people also watching this. So warm welcome. My name is Snezana, and I'm one of the authors of the study that we'll be presenting today. But as you might have seen in the bubbles that Romina prepared as a promotion for this event, I'm also a trainer, consultant in the non-formal educational field and world, if you would like. And like everyone else nowadays, stuck at home with this lockdown. And I have to say, this is the very first for me, this kind of presentation, which is very exciting. And I even put my earrings after many weeks of not wearing them. So that's exciting. And I have Susie with me, yeah? Hi, Susie.
Hiya. Okay, so I'm Susie Nicodemi, and I worked with Snezana and everybody else on the creation and process of the 4Thought study. I've been involved in international youth work for more than 20 years and quite a few different roles. Yeah, it was an interesting and exciting process to dive into this as a kind of thinking process, we decided to call it in the end. And it was really important for us to bring in quite a lot of our different backgrounds and to make sure that we covered as much ground as possible with the 4 different audiences and groups that we involved in this project. So yeah, here we are to tell you all about it.
Oh yeah. So what we'll do is we're going to screen the share or share the screen with you, and we have a presentation prepared. Some of the people that are watching this have seen it before, but we hope it will be as you have heard it and seen for the first time. Here we go. All right. So you've seen our names, now you know who we are. And first we want to talk to you about the common definition. As you have heard in the video and heard from Melanie as well, basically our task was to find the common definition of what solidarity is in the European youth work field. What we discovered, however, is that that's a little bit more complicated than we thought. We should have known, I guess, but anyways, it was definitely more complicated than we thought. So in fact, the common definition was not found. Yeah, but no, you're not in the right, in the wrong place. We still have things to share with you. Yeah, just not one definition. And there are several reasons why one common definition was not foundable, if that's the word, probably not. And that is because basically what we discovered is that solidarity is a concept with baggage, with a lot of biased history, and people's understanding of solidarity depends very much on their context, of their background, where they're from, and so on. So depending what they went through in their life, where they were born, which is why you also have in our introduction where we are from, because that's definitely shaping and coloring our view of solidarity, was thing that proved to be very impactful with people's understanding of solidarity. Yeah? Susie said we interviewed quite a few people. We also had surveys, and that was just even confirmed by talking to people as well. Yeah? This was also seen because what we did when we understood that we cannot have one common definition is that we explored the concepts that were connected to solidarity, is that people would have very opposing views of the same thing. Yeah, so someone would say, yes, solidarity is definitely support. And then the next day we would have another interview with someone would say, no, support is definitely not what solidarity is. Yeah, so that was another complication if you would like. And also if you look at the policy documents, laws, and so on, there is no singular notion in the EU law. Yeah, each country would have it differently defined, and we cannot talk about this common definition, but rather the islands of solidarity. So that was a bit challenging, but the good news is that there was still a possibility for a solid common ground. Yeah, and this is what we will talk to you about today.
Now, everybody knows that when you start with a project that you should base it on a need. So the first thing that we did in our project is to work out, is there really a need for solidarity? Is there something that's wanted, that's needed, that people need? And yeah, we found out that it's a real fundamental of society, that this concept of mutual support, of connection, of togetherness it's essential. And there was a great quote from one of the contributors, one of the interviewees in our project, compared the idea to just being a collection of individuals, with this link to the Hunger Games. And although we're living in a bit of a parallel universe right now, we're kind of hoping that we're not going to get that far. So yeah, the need was absolutely affirmed by everybody. Everyone agreed. It's about humanity. It's about needing others and supporting others. Solidarity helps us to connect, helps us to exist as a species. Another quote from one of our contributors. It shows that we need others, that it's necessary to have common acts of solidarity for society to grow. So this mutual support and need, everybody agreed with it.
Okay, so there was the need. So that was the beginning of our common ground, but there was more to this. And basically what we needed to find out is by working together, so by interviewing researchers, practitioners, policymakers, and young people, having surveys, having consultations, we needed to find out what is this common ground and what can we agree on, yeah, or what can we rather agree on. What would be the basis of our understanding of solidarity in the European youth work field? Yeah, and we had many different things in the process. We also have shapes and formats. So we also had the solidarity egg, which we will not show you this time. It's fitting to the times of Easter, but the egg is the thing of the past, and what we have now is much better. And we have it thanks to super talented Colleen, who made, among other things, also the cover of the report that you will have a chance to see. But she also made this fantastic drawing that actually represents the main findings, at least when it comes to the common ground from our project. Yeah? And I don't know how it looks like to you. If we were in a workshop or even an interactive Zoom, we can ask you and you could tell us how it looks like, but we call it a cake. And this cake has layers. And the top two layers that you might see are basically the main concepts that we got to through the research. Yeah. So the main concepts that relate to solidarity are empathy, human rights, active citizenship, and inclusion. And you probably also noticed them in the video that's being mentioned. They're not new words. I'm sure that many of you watching this will recognize them. They're the legacy of our previous mobility programs, of our youth work practice, and so on. But there we go. They are connected to solidarity. And as some people said, each of these concepts could have been the umbrella and solidarity could be under. Yeah. But this time, solidarity is the umbrella and all these concepts kind of fit under it. And these are the concepts where a majority of young people, practitioners, policymakers, and researchers agree, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that fits solidarity. But we also had supporting concepts, which are support for supporting active participation, equality of opportunities, strengthening communities, social justice, volunteering, and responsibility. Yeah, and they are all elaborated on in our report. Yeah, so we will not spend more time on this, but just so you know, these were the main concepts that we operated with. And then we also had
other things that came in. So we had nearly 1,000 comments and contributions of what to include in the definition or the common ground of solidarity and what not to. So people were asked, what would you definitely include and what would you exclude in your own personal definition of it? What we found is that there were definitely concepts in common, as we've seen, these main ones, which Snezana has already introduced. There were also this kind of grey layer here. There were some other concepts which several people, well, more than several, quite a lot of people thought should be included, but they didn't get quite as much statistics or support from the different groups, etc. So things like unity. This was in the research that the desk research, and in a lot of the contributions that we got from people. This was quite a strong one, but it didn't get as much support as these other ones at the top. So this grey layer is also a layer of concepts which many people feel are quite important for the concept of solidarity. And then underneath the cake, now this is where it gets interesting, because these are the concepts that cause discrepancies. These are the things which give you the diversity of solidarity. This is what shows that solidarity is different for different people. So you might, I don't know if you can zoom in, if you can see every word or whatever, but you'll be able to see this closer later. But there are some concepts here which for some people were particularly challenging or curious, or they felt very strongly for or against. So for example, our good old one of Christian democracy. It is true that when you start looking at historical developments, or you start researching, like desk mapping and researching things in our European political culture, Christian democracy has played quite a big part. But there were several people who questioned it. Why are we choosing only one religion, and why religion? And the moment that you start applying a limits to something, does that kind of delineate what it's not, etc.? So so this causes contention, discussion, debate, diversity between people. And there were several others as well. For example, the EU rights and principles. You'll be surprised to know that the policymakers were very, very strong in their support for this. This is absolutely, definitely what solidarity is about. And there is no question. The researchers, on the other hand, said, no, we should exclude this. This has nothing to do with what the concept of solidarity is. And practitioners and young people, they were kind of ambivalent about it. Some people supported, some against, but they had no really strong feelings. So by having these four sectors involved in our study, we really got a feel and a real diverse contribution from different needs in the field, and individuals' perspectives on different geographical or historical or cultural perspectives on things. And we hope that the solidarity cake, as we call it, will help stimulate dialogue in this way, which is why we wanted to include these bottom layers as well. Not just give a formula, this kind of top layer. I'm waving my thing, but you can't see it, can you? Not just these, hey, my little tool I've got, not just the top layer, but all the other stuff we feel is very important and to use when discussing solidarity.
Great, thank you, Susie. The reason why we also emphasize so much on these layers is that we will now go on to just briefly tell you about the four main concepts. But what Susie and I discovered in the process, that we found that we had more fun and more excitement when we were looking at dilemmas and things that people disagree with and so on. And they are very present in the report, yeah? So we hope that that would kind of intrigue you a little bit to flip through only, what, 150 pages or something like that? All right, so on to the four main concepts. Again, just briefly, because you'll be surprised, I think, in the week to come to see that there will be another video that will cover them in more detail.
Oh, sorry. Let me undo my
your drawings.
Digital.
Something very important.
Yeah.
You'll keep talking.
Yeah, keep going.
So one of them was active citizenship, and actually the main thing, and of course we couldn't do it without Greta, is that that what we need more than a feeling and a hope is actually action, yeah? And that solidarity should be based on feelings, should be based on values, but it needs action. Action in the streets, or action online, or action in the family, but it needs some kind of movement, yeah? And that's why often actually in language you use act of solidarity, yeah? Being in solidarity and not solidaire or whatever. There's a part of citizenship that I'm sure many people watching, I mean, we're all used to active citizenship and debating about it, but it's about rights and responsibilities, and actually feeling the need to contribute to shaping the community that we feel the belonging to, yeah? Whichever that community might be. Might be our neighborhood, which is probably what is happening nowadays in times of Corona, because we can't go very far. Can be our country, can be Europe, or can be the whole world, yeah? But there is a sense of belonging that is moving us to act, yeah? And it's the willingness to engage and that contribute to this society, yeah? So this was the link between active citizenship and solidarity, yeah? Then there is another, I would say, a usual suspect and very dear to me as well. It's human rights, yeah? So there was also a very, very clear connection between solidarity and human rights. And here you don't see a quote from Greta, but from Gulesin, who I think is watching us today. She was one of our interviewees. And I would really read it, because it says, solidarity, the two agents are not on the same level. You take yourself and place yourself side by side with the other and own the cause. Actually, they are on the same level, yeah? Which means that there is no upper and lower, there is no help, there is no charity, but it's actually that you make sure that everyone has the same rights and is able to exercise their rights, yeah? So it's important to see everyone as a human being, and that everyone has the same deservance or is deserving of solidarity, yeah? That some of us are not more entitled to solidarity than the others, yeah? That's a very important point from the research. And also privileges came through as something that some people that we spoke to recognize that they are privileged by being born somewhere or having certain opportunities in life. And it's these privileges that are actually motivating them to use those privileges not for themselves, but for others. Yeah, and to ensure again that their rights are promoted, defended, and helped. Yeah, just briefly, we have a whole chapter about human rights, so this is just a teaser.
And then the third, after the four cornerstones that we defined from the research, is empathy. So this, as we know, it's about recognizing someone else's truth. It's about connecting with others, the understanding other people's needs, the togetherness there. And it's based on core values. It's about recognizing the need of others. It's about the sharing of injustice, the sharing of this shared sense of injustice, which compels people to act, but motivates them and compels them to act. It's important to realize that the connection between feeling and doing, so feeling and acting came up a lot in lots of different parts of our research. As Snezana said earlier, it's important to be able to feel something to then be able to act, but acting without feeling, the other way around, is also an empty process. So these core values that are shared and felt are very important as well. And what that gives as well is this link to wider groups of going beyond bubbles, and empathizing, connecting, and sharing the values or the feelings with others that maybe you wouldn't normally. So for example, even in the times of Corona or the fight against climate change, it can connect you to people that maybe you wouldn't normally connect with. So people of a different generation, people in a different country, people with different whatever backgrounds, but the solidarity action for the values that you have takes you there and connects you there, and helps you link to people that are different. And thank you very much. Hey, we're right in tune. I was just about to say this links to inclusion. So yeah, it's quite difficult sometimes to be able to write and to explain things which all seem quite interconnected with each other. But yeah, the concept of inclusion, our fourth cornerstone for solidarity, absolutely vital. So in our work anyway, in international youth work, we know this, we've seen it lots of times, all of us, I'm sure, about the reaching out, the including of other people. But what the interesting, important bit about the solidarity research is about the concept of going beyond the usual circles, about developing solidarity with wider groups, maybe even with those who don't necessarily share the same values and beliefs. So maybe these non-believers, yeah, because otherwise we would stay inside our own circle, inside our own bubble, and preaching to the converted with those with the same values all the time. And this kind of reach out and breaking the bubbles is quite an important element. And then the other point related to inclusion is this long-term approach, the fact that it's not about individual actions, but more about changing whole structures and systems and policies and attitudes to make things different in a wider way. And this links again to human rights and social justice, but allowing people the opportunity to be included, allowing people from different starting points through equity, allowing them ways to be involved and included in things. So sustainable system change.
Brilliant. So these were the kind of the main findings. What we also found out that I think both mentioned was a lot of dilemmas, a lot of questions, a lot of disagreements, and some of them we would still like to ask you as well to participate, and ask you what you think. Yeah. So we prepared a brief Mentimeter. That's our contribution to interaction today. So we ask you to, you know how it goes, at least many of you, just go to www.menti.com and put the following code. You don't need any account, you don't need anything. And once you put in the code, you should be able to see this. And when you're there, and because we know that there is a 30-second delay, just press on a heart or on a cat and let us know that you have arrived.
In the same way that through our research, we wanted to hear from the four sectors, the policy, practice, research, and young people. And we found that dialogue and contribution from different perspectives, this was really important. So we wanted to have a little moment in this presentation here to kind of, yeah, learn through doing, to kind of show it, and for you to be involved in the, rather than sitting listening in your tables at home somewhere on your sofas.
I can't believe that there are 23 hearts or 26 and 9 cats. Come on, cats. Come on. You can do better than that. I know that there are some cat lovers in the audience. But it's great to see at least some of the interaction, because for the majority of this presentation, the only thing I can see is the presentation and Susie, which is brilliant because that's how we spent the past year and a half. Mm-hmm. It's also great to see some other faces of other hearts and cats.
It's quite nice to see Snezana with her hair done.
Oh, yeah.
Usually we're not quite like this when we're connecting and working on these projects.
What do you mean? You always look like that.
Cool.
Just to give you short feedback, we have more than 200 people joining and lots of questions and feedback that we're already collecting. So you're not talking to the empty void. You're doing a great job.
We know. We just don't see him.
That's good to know. I was imagining 5,000, but you know.
Because really, what can you do on Tuesday afternoon during the lockdown? Yeah? Shall we go ahead with the first question?
Yes, let's.
Yeah, let's do it. So here is our first question. We spoke about action a little bit, but that should not cloud your judgment. I mean, you should rely on your own kind of feelings and attitudes. So the question is, without action in real life, or the statement rather, there is no real solidarity. Yeah. So I'll repeat, although you can see it, without action in real life, there is no real solidarity. You have 3 choices, and let's see what you think. Okay, the first results are starting to arrive. So far, okay, so it arrived also to your screens, I can tell, but so far, what do you mean real life is winning? I knew it. That's why we included it. We knew that the audience would be keen to ask another question rather to support it. Haha.
In a lot of the research that we did, a lot of the desk mapping at least, there were 2 big Horizon 2020 projects where there was a lot of research from universities across Europe and different social structures and organizations and things, which they were really interesting projects, and they're referenced in the report. But they don't really mention online activism much at all. Their research and their interviews and the things that they were involved in were much more about local organizations or actions or campaigns or these kind of things. And we thought, with the lockdown and our current lives and how things are happening right now, that the question of online activism is becoming more and more important, and we wanted to know what you think about it.
Exactly. So I think for the moment we have the absolute winner, which is what you mean in real life, and we get it. That's probably not also the sentence we would use, neither in the research, because clearly even before Corona, online activism was also part of real life, just in another realm. Then we have people who say, well, online is the same as clicktivism. We'll come back to that later in the presentation. And only 14 people so far saying online actions are actually more inclusive. Yeah, we would love to debate this with you, and I'm sure we will have a chance next week, but MarCus will tell us all about the next event very soon. So I propose that we move on to the next one, and let's see what that one says. Susie, would you take the honors?
Yeah, this is my favorite thing about the whole project. This is my thing. Right, so altruism is more important than reciprocity in solidarity activities. So, is it about doing things for others? Is it about what the reward, what you would get out of it? What is the motivation that you have or that others should have for getting involved in solidarity activities? And,
apparently people have something with a pink color today.
I found this a really interesting question to ponder about if, for example, altruism, can you have an equal relationship with someone if you're only being altruistic? What about power and privilege? Where does that come in?
But it's also about whether you really need to give something in return, yeah, which is something that reciprocity very often implies. Yeah, so if I show an act of solidarity to you, or I'm in solidarity with you, do you need to do the same thing, you know? And then we are fair and square. Yeah, so there are a lot of actually sub questions under these, but majority of our Menti people think that solidarity includes both. Yeah, and actually a really, really large majority here. Yeah, and I think it stabilized a little little bit for the moment, so I think we can go to the last one that we have, which is my favorite. And it's about, so the statement goes, you need to show solidarity with everyone, otherwise solidarity becomes exclusive, yeah, or excluding. Yeah? Depends on how you see it. Yeah, so let's see what you think. And the first answer is, you can't reach everyone, which might be true. There was a lot of actually material around this particular sentence. Some of it was about European solidarity, or solidarity in Europe, or solidarity in the EU. Some of it was about in-groups and out-groups. Yeah, so whether we should just focus on the people who are near us and make sure that our backyard is in order and everyone is happy and everyone's rights are respected, and then reach out. Should we be worried about climate change if a majority of the effects are not being felt on us? Yeah. Is solidarity actually, does it need to be with the whole planet? And then we also have one of these answers that for the moment has the least support, which is that not everyone deserves solidarity. Yeah. We don't judge. I'm sure each of us were at some point of our lives thinking, well, you don't deserve anything, yeah, to certain groups or certain people. But still, does that mean that then solidarity simply excludes some people? Yeah? Because their values are not in line, because their actions are not in line, and so on. Yeah? So this was one of the open dilemmas that we had in our project.
There's an interesting research by a guy called, I think it's a guy, it might be a woman, called Van Oorschot, that created the deservingness criteria. And it's quoted quite a lot in different social science things, and people, yeah, I've seen it in quite a few places. And there's a list of why people are deserving of solidarity activities. And the list, just to say it quickly, I've got it here with me. So the list is the extent to which they have control or responsibility for their own situation, their level of need, their social proximity and their spatial proximity to you, their identity, whether it's shared or respected or not, and their attitude, like how grateful are they for this solidarity action, and then the last point, if there is reciprocity involved. And apparently the scale, yeah. So.
Yeah, okay. So again, we have a slight advantage of depends on the situation. Of course it does. That you can't reach everyone, and then everyone or nothing, which has significantly lower votes, or not everyone deserves it. Yeah. Yeah, this was our last question for this presentation, but we really invite you, if you want and if you can, to check the chapter, because we have a whole chapter, and the document is long, so the chapter is long as well, about dilemmas, about quite open questions, about many different things surrounding this. And yeah, I think Susie and I spoke many times that this is probably what we found the most interesting out of the whole research. Yeah, because it somehow goes deeper, it goes beyond. It's actually quite interesting. Yeah, but we still have a few things to share with you. So I go back to our presentation, and it's actually one whole segment about the future of solidarity in the European youth field. Yeah, and briefly, when looking into the future, we would like to share with you some of the trends that we are absolutely certain that you are aware of. Yeah, but we still want to highlight them because they had an impact on our findings. Yeah. So, and this is not the future of solidarity per se, these things, but it's the future in which solidarity fits in. Yeah. And one of them is about rise of individualism. Yeah, many people said that and meant it in a negative way. Yeah, so of course being with yourself, in yourself is fine. It's not about that, but it's about caring just for yourself and not for the rights, for the benefits, for the well-being of others. Yeah, so that was one of the things that was highlighted by the respondents. Then we have collectivism that we mentioned, or selectivism, which is kind of considered by some as an easy way out, that I just sign an Avaz petition and I'm done. Yeah, this is my act of solidarity for today. Yeah, and that I don't feel the need to act. We will not call it in real life, but to actually make an action for solidarity. Yeah? Then we're sure you recognize some of these faces, but there is also, of course, the rise of populism, right-wing groups and movements and so on. which has also been shown in the recent Corona times, also fall of some, at least proclaimed democracies, and so on. Of course, we have climate change, or climate crisis rather, which was really gaining momentum while we were doing the research and became very, very important. And the recent edition of today, it was not in our original presentation. It's also the image that many of you probably have in one of your tabs and desktop, counting the people and so on, which is the virus, but not this particular virus only, but pandemics or catastrophes or the things that would affect us globally and would require certain response, not just from our governments, but also from us. And actually in this last segment, which, we are quite late with it anyway, but we want to raise some questions and they will stay with you, hopefully. And it's how are these negative phenomena influencing the future of solidarity in the European youth field, but also beyond. And also how, because one element that we had was this intergenerational solidarity. So how do we ensure that there is solidarity between different generations and that all generations, old and young, actually act against these emerging threats? Yeah, and meaning that what is the, I mean, I know it's a cliche, but what is the world that we want to leave to the present generations, not future anymore? Yeah, so it's quite burning at the moment. Yeah, so this is kind of the context in which we look into the future. And we can see the future, but only based on our findings. Yeah, so we don't know what will happen tomorrow. We definitely didn't know when we were writing this report that we will be talking to you from our rooms and not in the conference in Vienna. But here we are, and here are some of the considerations, not just for the future, but also for the future of the European Solidarity Corps. Yeah, as a considerations. And one of them, I will just go briefly because we mentioned them, is the importance of the solidarity with all. And the questions is like, who is more deserving, and is it about the people with the same values or not, and so on. And how do we ensure that solidarity does not become a concept that excludes, yeah, that it just becomes about people that we feel deserve solidarity. Yeah, how do we ensure that it also extends to migrants, refugees, people who are outside of Europe, people who don't have the health care systems like we have, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's connected to European solidarity or solidarity in Europe or beyond. Yeah, because the European Solidarity Corps, for example, comes with the European tag on it, which is brilliant. Yeah, but it's also how do we ensure that it's not insulating in Europe. Yeah? And also how do we ensure that we show solidarity to those that are most outgrouped. Yeah, so they don't belong to our inner group and might actually need solidarity the most, because we all know who work with as youth workers, trainers, policymakers, researchers probably as well, that actually many young people act in a certain way, not because they are bad people, yeah, but simply because there are some needs that are not fulfilled. So how do we ensure that we show solidarity to them as well? Yeah. Then there is sustainability. It's about acting, and it's also how do we ensure that solidarity goes beyond immediate crisis events. I don't know how is your experience, but my experience certainly is that my building, my neighborhood really came together. Everyone is taking care of each other, from kids, you know, ensuring that the kids can play, that the old people have things delivered, and so on. So this current crisis really brought us together in that sense. Yeah, but will this live on? I'm not sure. So how do we actually ensure that it lives on beyond this, but also beyond kind of short-term acts of solidarity? Yeah, and question that was raised by some of the people was, should sustainability and climate crisis actually become the main focus of solidarity in Europe or the European Solidarity Corps? Yeah.
So, other concepts which relate to the future and the direction where we're going and what's important, where we could and should be heading. The idea about lifelong solidarity, to question it a bit. Is it about changing attitudes? Is it about encouraging others to see things differently and to change their attitudes and behaviours? And for some respondents, it was very much, and they were very strong in this, about pushing the fact that it's not about individual short-term acts. It's not something that you do once for a certain period. You don't just go for a week on an exchange or just a short-term volunteering thing, and then that's it. My societal duty is filled and I'm done. It's about what could and should it be about? More than that, we presume. And how can the Solidarity Corps help make that more of a longer term, lifelong thing, not just about individual projects. Okay, and then we covered this a little bit in our mentee and our discussions, but the idea about exploring, exploiting, taming new technologies, and developing a genuine, effective solidarity online and through digital tools. So not so much collectivism, but more than that. And you know, being aware that, well, before coronavirus anyway, the research that we were looking at is that the ones who are most effective right now are far-right movements online. I'd be curious to see what that's changing right now. I'm not sure. And yeah, maybe the attitude to online stuff has changed in the past few weeks. And the whole really important point about critically dealing with information critically. I'm very passionate about that one. I have to stop my father from spreading fake news. It's very, very important. Young people and others, intergeneration. That's important in the online space. And then we found through the 4 groups that we were connected to in different ways through research and through the surveys and the interviews and the desk mapping. So we had policy, practice, research, and young people. This is part of the reason why it was called 4Thought, by the way. 4Thought also means to think in advance for something, to be prepared for something. So this is the 4 groups. And there was a real feeling, especially at the beginning of the research, which was last January, that the balance of power wasn't particularly equal. There were some comments and some responses that the power related to solidarity, it seemed to be much more owned by the policy sector, and that the practice field wasn't really owning it at the time. But this is now quite a few months ago, and things have maybe changed a little bit. But that balance of power is important to remember, that those 4 angles affect the whole of European youth field, and it's important to keep those in mind when we do things. Also really important, another personal passion of mine, is community impact. So in the past, personal learning and development and competencies, employability has been a very important focus, and it still is. But there is also a little bit of a shift of approach these days related to community through this solidarity approach. The idea of connecting and linking to community, and community is where needs are felt at the beginning for an action to happen, and it's where the legacy, the impact of a solidarity activity stays. So the level of community is really vital in solidarity activities, and to encourage young people to come out of their own values and their own position in their own place and connect with that local level of community. Obviously not only local neighbourhood, the whole concept of community, but we don't need to talk about that now. And then the other point, yes, obviously the Solidarity Corps is not only about volunteering and things, it's also about jobs and traineeships. And there were some interesting contributions about social capital, about the social and solidarity economy. So cooperatives and these kind of things, and the idea that bringing bringing solidarity into the workplace and using kind of social enterprises to connect with the community level, and making that transversal link through the different stakeholders at the different levels, and keeping that community as a base. How can solidarity do that transversal connections? So that was another one that came up.
Mm-hmm. And we have one more, which was kind of an accidental discovery, but a very pleasant one, because I think I said it many times since we started presenting this project, but when European Solidarity Corps was launched and presented to us, there was quite a lot of skepticism, and there was quite a lot of questions raised and so on. But what we discovered through this research and some other related project is that solidarity is a gift, and it was in a way given to us by the European Solidarity Corps as a program and as an initiative. And we feel that it's very important to use this momentum. And the momentum still lives, yeah, even with the support of the virus, is to kind of spread this solidarity in youth work, in the learning mobility projects, in the non-formal education, in all the things that we do. Yeah, we are fully aware, and that's also very present in the report, is that solidarity is not a new thing. Yeah, it's been in youth work, it's been in our lives for as long as we know it, in a way. But now it has a name, now it has an attention, and it's time to use it, and we should use it. Yeah, and so how do we nurture it and support it and make sure that all the stakeholders, the 4 and more, are working together to make sure that we see solidarity as a gift and use it as such. Yeah, so this is kind of our final message that we want to leave you with. And also that we hope that we see you in the future.
In person, that would be nice.
In person, yeah, but for now through Zooms and live.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.
Thanks for your attention, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Snezana and Susie. It's out. It's finally out, huh? Of the very long process. We have had a lot of feedback on Facebook that we will forward to you shortly. Lots of critical questions also, which is good, because that's the idea, no? To spark a critical debate. But first, as we said, it's well deserved also to have this milestone, to celebrate that this is out now. So we invite everybody who's on the live stream now. We, the team, we prepared something to drink. My kids were wondering today why at 2 in the afternoon I bring a glass of wine. I said it's for work, don't worry, because we want to celebrate this, even though there's much to debate about it, for sure. But it's been a long process, and now we have something to discuss about as well. So I would invite here the companions, the fellowship of the 4Thought, to make a toast. I think you also want to mention some people, right? I think, Romina, you had some people on your heart and mind.
Sure, because as you said, solidarity is given to us as a gift, but solidarity is a concept that is being supported by people. And I consider the people that are around me and that put their time and energy to support solidarity, they are also a gift to have. And I would like to bring the first thanks to our directors from the ITSET organization, the host organization of the National NA from Austria, that are doing a great job, Gerhard and Martina. Thank you for your support. Of course, thank you to Melanie also, who is our coordinator in the European Solidarity Core Resource Center. She invested so much energy and time in that, so cheers to that also. This would have not been possible without the support of the Austrian National Agency and also a Finnish National Agency. So thanks to that again. Together with the national agencies, because Europe Talks, as I said, was initially planned to be offline, sorry. We end up online. So for the offline, to the facilitators team, MarCus, who is here with us, we can do the screen chin. But also I feel the need to mention also Anna from Italy, because she worked a lot on this concept. And thanks a lot, Anna, for your energy and effort. Of course, with the magic writers behind the study, thank you so much, Snezana and Susie. Chin chin to you and to all your commitment and the fact that you are still answering to our comments and feedback to the report. I know it was not an easy job to do that. Of course, this would have not been possible without the support of my colleague, Kristina. She's now answering to comments and reacting to the Facebook page. Kristina, thank you so much for your commitment and also the fact that you are okay with the role behind the screen. Cheers to that. And if you are looking to the report and if you are reading the report that Kristina also shares now on Facebook, you could see a very nice language, which is due to the authors, but also due to Nick Paddison, who really put a lot of effort in proofreading and editing the document. Cheers to that. And also, if you look to the document, you can see super nice drawings, and the person behind that is Colleen. Thank you for that, Colleen. And also the layout that is being done by Ula. So thank you. Cheers to that also. So many people and much more to say thank you to, right?
Yeah, we also would like to thank you, not by name, because greatly, that would last ages, is to all of the people that supported us in the interviews. which was 30 of them, people who replied to the surveys, there was 2 of the surveys, and many people involved, people who were sitting through our presentations on different occasions, and were consulted, gave feedback, and so on. And Susie, I give you the honors to thank our... and Romina!
And Romina, who was a careful and thoughtful driver of the whole process. Thank you, Romina. Can we drink the wine now?
Well, to everybody watching, feel free.
Yeah, just before doing that, of course, that is a non-alcoholic drink. Because we also want to thank, of course, to the European Commission and the program that supports us, the European Solidarity Corps program. Thanks for being there and bringing this solidarity to us.
Absolutely. Non-alcoholic.
Non-alcoholic drinks.
Mine is, but I paid it myself.
Yeah.
But everybody watching, please feel free also to take a selfie while you toast with us and post it on the live stream, or any wishes, congratulations. So congratulations for this long process.
Only the beginning.
Tea is also accepted as a selfie.
Yeah.
So now we have a bit of time left. We promised not to go over 4:30, so we have half an hour-ish left for your feedback and your questions. We already collected a lot. Thanks a lot for this. We want to give you a little bit more time, so 5 more minutes, to put your questions and feedback on the Facebook stream. And Anya and Kristina go through it and forward it to us. And in these 4 or 5 minutes we would like to ask the 3 of you a bit to give us also some insights or impressions from behind the scene. It was a long process, for sure, with ups and downs. So if you look back at your emotional fever curve, what were some of the highlights or challenges or very memorable moments, things you would not repeat, things you would definitely repeat? Give us any insights from the making of 4Thought.
Well, I will just give you one, and then I'll give the floor, is that I cannot count how many times we said nearly there. Yeah, that was kind of a leitmotif, and this is the first time that we really are nearly there. Yeah, so it was quite a process.
How long ago was the first time you thought you'd be there?
Summer last year.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be finished by June or July last
August.
year. August, okay.
What turned out more challenging than you expected?
So I can also say
for
that
me, go Romina.
For me, it would be to be okay with the fact that solidarity is not a fixed concept. Mm-hmm. Because the struggle for me was to, and also for my team, I'm not speaking the name of the team, but I feel that they also had the same feeling. It's hard to follow a certain logic and to be okay with the fact that it can be approached from so different directions and angles, and it's still okay. Mm-hmm. So this tolerance towards ambiguity was really challenged.
Mm.
I have just to add to what Romina was saying, I have to say, and it's not just about cheers and so on, is that we had an amazing support from the resource center team. Yeah. Because we did come back and say, look, what you ask us to do, it's not going to be possible. And they were fine with it. And we took different directions. They were fine with it. And not only that, they really supported us in this process. Yeah. So this is not just us telling our employers how amazing they were, but they actually were kind of with us in this process. So that was quite fantastic.
Yeah. I would second that the values involved in creating it, this ambiguity and this connection between us. Not all resource centres and not all national agencies work in this way. And I have to say that the Solidarity Corps Resource Centre, with the values that you hold and the approaches that you use, made it quite easy for us to work in the way that we wanted to. So and hopefully with an effect that's gonna really impact and support the field for real, not just words in a document. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
What surprised you along the way of the findings of your study?
I learned a lot about Christian democracy and the history of politics in Europe. I learned a lot about that, and there's going to be a video about that, which is quite exciting.
I think what surprised me was, this is the moment of truth, right? After my non-alcoholic drink, is that I became also a believer in jobs and traineeships of the European Solidarity Corps. So that was a big transformation, and trying to, and this was again what was helpful with having the resource center with us, and really trying to get into understanding of what was the motivation, what's the reason, and what good can it bring. And don't get me wrong, I'm still my old pessimistic and cynical self, and so I have a lot of questions, and the dilemmas that we showed were just some of them. But I think a lot of belief came, and this is why this whole thing of gift, I think, came through report.
Yeah, I would just ask that for me it was surprising to see the limits of solidarity, and the fact that sometimes solidarity can also create barriers, walls, and how we deal with that and how we accept that. And it's more in the report if you want to read more about in-group, out-group, but I think that's also interesting to look at.
Thank you so much. I would have lots of more questions, but there was a feedback already. Drink finally on the Facebook Lives. It seems we have a lot of blah blah. And time to look at what people gave us feedback as questions. Just to underline once more that this first event is more of a launch, more of a frontal event where the 4Thought study is presented, and there's a little chance of giving feedback and questions to the authors, but more events will follow with more interactions, smaller groups, breakout groups, etc. Let's see. So we had, sorry for turning away at matter of that. So in the beginning, we also asked, what is solidarity? And we had, for instance, Mark Taylor saying it's love. Michael Frimberger said it's ukuleles, which for those who know these people, it's more of an insight. Max Frass says it's a social media rant. Michael Gugemeyer, his favorite phrase on solidarity, it's the tenderness of the people. Alvaro Naranjito said it's social justice. Maria de la Luz Rubio said human rights. And Luther Blissett and Edouard Portefeuille said it's the cake on the cherry, or the cake. So the cake left a lot of impression also. Other impressions we received is and if anyone noticed that today is Holocaust Martyrs Remembrance Day, so in the spirit of solidarity. Then we had from Darko Markovic, yes, it's only about me and my development. It's an important shift. Elizabeth Hansel said solidarity at workplaces also strongly is to be linked to and understood in the context and history of labor unions and the community of workers' rights movements. Aisha Smith said, how to encourage young people to go beyond individualism and interconnect to the need of the community, key to solidarity core projects, especially the local ones also. And now to, oh wait, there was one more down here. Yeah, Georges Semet said, my favorite, there is not one definition of solidarity. Hopefully this will be read and taken into account by the NA assessors and decision makers when they present the projects, that there is not one single definition. But let's go a bit to the questions. So here we have, for instance, one. And I think this one could be good for Romina as well. So Berus asks us, nice presentation, thank you indeed. But it feels like giving more questions than answers. So what was the research about? Finding the research questions? Sorry if it's strange what I'm saying. So it's about the scope of the research, if it should give answers or raise questions.
The answer, I think it's both. Because the study also offers some answers. If you look to the 4 concepts that were being agreed with the 4 areas, so everyone from the 4th area agreed that these 4 concepts are connected with solidarity. So we have an answer, but then we have a lot of questions also. As I said, it's not easy to understand and to accept that we have both answers and questions in the same study. But it's about solidarity, because you need to think and you need to reflect and you need to questioning again and again. So to answer to your direct question is I think that the study brings a little bit of clarity regarding solidarity, and it gives us the path. At least now we have a path through which we can walk on and see more clear as we go. But maybe the authors wants to.
Yeah, thanks, Romina. I don't think I could say it better myself. Just wanted to say about the presentation itself that this was our conscious choice to focus on the dilemmas and the questions, because we felt that not the answers, I would say, but more the statements you can read in the report itself. Yeah. So, for example, the whole last part of the future of the considerations for the European Solidarity Corps and so on, that these are all kind of concrete recommendations based on the research. But indeed, there is also a lot of questions. So.
All right, thanks a lot. Miriam asks if solidarity explored in 2019 is the same as the solidarity explored in 2020. As you've been working it for 5 years.
Easy questions, eh?
Can't you just ask us like how many things we did or something like that? Okay, so one of the main, the most basic fundamental findings that we had is that there is not one definition of solidarity, that it depends on your experiences, your culture, your society, your values, all those kind of things. And it can change for you during your own life as well, according to how those things change. So what's most important, as we do in international youth work, also through cultural diversity and these things, it's about encouraging dialogue and for people to have the chance to self-reflect about themselves and to consider and to challenge themselves and to work out what it is for them, which is part of the reason why when we made the cake model, we didn't just want to give 4 cornerstones that would enable you to get an application through for a grant. We wanted to give the whole picture for people to be allowed to start a contentious discussion and to say, what do you mean that this bit isn't the fundamental part of solidarity? Because for me, this word here is the most important part. And everyone we spoke to, they all had a different most important part.
I think to add to that, in terms of time, just yesterday night, doing something else based on values and so on, I discovered a quote from Paulo Freire, which is my favorite inspiration, speaking about solidarity, and that's some decades old, and it felt super relevant. So on one hand, I think that there are elements of solidarity that live on, maybe the core, the foundations, if you would like, or whatever it is. But also, if you would ask me if I would edit some things, sitting in my room now in April and experiencing whatever lockdown brought and how my government acted, how other governments acted, how my neighbors acted, how my colleagues acted, I would definitely add. Yeah. So I think that these experiences that we live through also impact on how we see solidarity, how we channel it, yeah, how we understand it, yeah. And although I was one of the main advocates to putting, solidarity, I would actually, if you asked me for a few months ago, I would say the whole European solidarity core should be about climate crisis. And now I would say, actually, it should be about neighborhoods and communities. So I think it definitely changes in the way of how we see it.
Thank you so much.
Can I just jump in? Because I saw also another question from someone else. When we were working out who to ask and how to, which views to take into account, etc., we definitely did a balance of every single thing we could possibly think of. So we did geographical balance, we did cultural, language, gender, experience. We made sure there was policy, practice, research, and young people. So we balanced in all directions for those things. It was actually quite hard to try to find people and to make sure we got that balance, but we did try our hardest to do that, and we did fulfill all the areas that we wanted to in that. And there were some really diverse contributions from Ukraine, Lebanon, Portugal. They were really, really different.
Great, thank you for this. Indeed, this was one of the questions that Domagoj asked, to get more information about the actual target group of the research, the numbers, the demographics, as there is a suspicion it might be inside a bubble. And so you answered about this, but about the bubble, there's another interesting one from Max. And you wanted critical questions, so here we go. So Max says, does the research offer any insights into the ways of building European solidarity? A lot of us agree that it's a wonderful thing, but talking to people in the civil society sector is largely preaching to the converted, to stay in the bubble. How do we get this message out? Any ideas or good practices identified in popularizing the notion and feeling among the general European public? So this question of preaching to the converted, how to get the message out.
I would like to refer still to Domagoj's question, not just because it's Domagoj, but because I think it's not the same. Yeah, a question about the bubble, and I would say I agree with Susie. So it's not just saying but I think that we tried very hard to get out of the bubble. So we had, for example, climate crisis center of the Red Cross. Yeah, it's people that I've never worked with, and I think they're not active in our field, and we still managed to get to them, to Kristina, for example. Yeah, or persons who were active in humanitarian aid that are not connected to us. Yeah, but if we see bubble a little bit wider, they would still fit, I would say. Yeah, so the people that we spoke to with our capacity in the study and so on, I would say they were probably quite bubbly. That's not what I wanted to say, yeah. But they were still quite in the bubble. That's true, I think, and I think that just reflects the reality of our field in many ways. Yeah. So I think from the work that I have, looking at my professional career, this was probably one where I felt that I got in touch with more people that are not in my immediate surrounding. But indeed, I think it needs to be said that. And also, yeah, we had young people that were reached out to, which was great with the efforts of the resource center, that maybe were doing volunteering or internship, but they would say, yeah, I never thought about solidarity before, yeah, and so on. So we did have a few people like that, but I think mostly still we fit maybe in a bit of a more extended bubble.
I would also add that we admit this wasn't in our remit and our capacity, but there was no control group for what we did. So there was no neutral analysis of people outside of our bubble to make the comparison to. I mean, that would be amazing. That would be a really interesting thing to do. Probably a little bit outside of Snezana and I's competence and ability right now. I mean, capability it would take a lot. It would take a big project to be able to do something like that. But I would be really interested and curious to see. We're talking about this inclusion of reaching out and people who don't share our values and things like this, but there's so many presumptions behind all this, and I would really love to see the outcomes of a research like that has a control group.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to add also is the fact that also for us it's important in a way to be in the bubble first, because we wanted to see also a bit what is solidarity in this bubble, because in our bubble of international youth work, we have a lot of research about human rights, about inclusion, employability, and solidarity is still new. And so in a way, it was never put it like that, but I think it's also good to know first our bubble, and then the next step is also to go a bit abroad. And I'm so sorry that our conference, Europe Talks About Solidarity, was not possible offline, because what we want also under this brand is to reach out. So now we know what is in our bubble, more or less, and we wanted to reach out. One of the expert lists for our conference were out of our bubbles, and we tried as much as possible to have inputs and experts out from the initial bubble. We had academias, we invited people from social movements, activists. So the idea is now to go out of the bubble and see the results. And of course that we need you also, the ones that are now watching us on Facebook that are not necessarily connected with international youth work. Reach us, send us your questions, and let's build this while we are walking.
Thank you, Romina. About not so much about bubbles, but maybe about scope. There was also a question. So when we talk about European solidarity, does this exclude the rest of the world? What is in for the world, also in context of development cooperation? So solidarity expanding beyond Europe.
Just nodding, or
yeah, let's just not. This is you do.
Yeah. Well, when we said how solidarity is also influenced by our background, by context, I don't live in the EU. I probably won't for some time in the future.
Oh,
yeah, and also Susie doesn't anymore live in the EU. Susie moved out of the EU
I
in the course.
I didn't, but they did.
Involuntarily.
And I think this probably was the reason why, for me, it was important also to. It didn't come from me originally, but then when going through the outcomes and what people said and so on, it became evidence that what Romina said that surprised her, that indeed even the label European solidarity can be super exclusive. Yeah. So what we try to actually cover in the report and also in these steps in the future is to really think, how can we extend? Yeah, and it can be an EU-funded program. That's great. Thank you, EU taxpayers. But it would be really fantastic if it goes beyond also just neighboring regions, but also really look at the world. Because speaking of the climate crisis of the Red Cross, our interviewee from there, Sana, said also that solidarity is about acting with people when we understand that they are affected, let's say with climate crisis, although it doesn't affect us at all. Yeah. So in Europe, we still don't have at least that many, or at all climate refugees, but that's a real thing around the world. Yeah. So this was one of the calls for action, for example. Yeah. So there were a lot of things actually in the report, but this is something that came later. It was not part of our original scope, I think, to question European solidarity in that sense. Yeah, but it came and it's very present. So
I would also
how to go beyond.
Okay.
I think partly it's part of our attitudes. So it's not just policymakers. I think it's how we see it as practitioners, as also researchers, as young people as well. Yeah. How do we approach it? Do we see it as European and say Europe first, and then we see what is left? And then, of course, it's to put the pressure on the decision makers, policy makers, to say this needs to be explicit, yeah, not just as a side effect, but it really needs to be explicit.
Just a really small comment, and this is a completely personal, independent comment. It's got nothing to do with me representing this or working for the the Resource Centre for this project or anything. So this is just Susie. The humanitarian aid aspect that will be connected to the programme in the new cycle also for me brings a lot of questions related to charity and giving, and the things which we heard and the research that we did related to the fact that for many people charity does not equal solidarity. They are not the same things, and for many people they're actually completely different things. So I would be interested and curious to see, yeah, as Snezana said, really how the field and the people and the research practice policy young people could influence and approach that to make sure that the different parts of the programme have integrity to each other.
We are almost out of time. If I look at the other questions, quite some of them refer also to the way the study was done. So for instance, if there was a weighing between cultures or geographic regions, quite some questions also to the reaching out, to how to get solidarity across, how to put it in practice, if practices have been identified. The last question I will take from here to get also another topic is, Ranush asks, what about compassion? Because we had empathy as one of the key words, so why is there no compassion on the case?
Another round of nodding heads. Hi, Ranush. It simply didn't come up. Yeah.
It wasn't supported. Sorry, it wasn't supported. It was there as an option and people didn't support it.
Yeah, so to also maybe then it goes the question how it was done. So we didn't want to really use time for this because it's in the report, so you can read how and who was the sample and how it was done and so on. Maybe it's really the moment to say also that we are not researchers. It had to be said and it had to be done. But still the whole process and the questions are in there and so on. And then one of the ways that it was done is that we first collected the questions that came from an initial survey where people identify the concepts. And then we brought these concepts back to a wider survey, to interviews, to consultations, and some things were supported and voted, nominated, and so on, and some simply weren't. Yeah, and then although we struggled with this, and we struggled with a lot of elements, also maybe to MarCus answer your question, what was challenging? It was really challenging not to put in our personal opinion, and I'm sure it's there. Yeah, and I'm sure people who know us will feel it, but we still struggle to reduce it as much as possible. Yeah, so when we saw something that we felt this should definitely be here. Yeah. But if people didn't simply support it, then we didn't include it. Yeah. But maybe as future amendments, or let's see what the future brings and what are the plans of the Resource Centre. Maybe they take up another of these ventures in the future and then add whatever is missing.
And just to provide a little practical response to it. So as Snezana explained, we did the two processes and people would respond. And then we took the concepts that people would positively support for their own concept of solidarity, and then concepts they would actively exclude, which for them were nothing to do with it. And I've got it here, 29% of researchers put it as a concept they would actively exclude: compassion. Mm-hmm. So it didn't have full support from the four groups.
There was a very practical question also, because people enjoyed the presentation you did and were scared of 200 pages of research. And they asked if this presentation would be available possibly publicly.
No, just a document. I mean, it's. By the way, it's not 160. I think it's 115, and then it's annexes. But
and it's got pictures. It's like a kid's book. It's got pictures in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Romina.
Yeah, what I wanted to calm you down, everyone, we will soon launch also a summary of the report, which is, I think, up to maximum 10 pages, something like that. Even less, five pages. Yeah, 5 pages. So relax, chill. And also what we will have, we had only 1 video and 3 are in the making. So what we consider the most important parts of the report are also transformed in an animated video. So we know reading is not necessarily one thing to do, but also it's nice to have also this content for the ones that I really wanted to go into the deep meaning of the research. But we also have some more easy to read things. I don't know if now is the moment to announce also other events that are coming to support this research, because it's just the beginning. As I said, it's a beginning of a beautiful friendship, hopefully. But more will come. For example, we will have these webinars online. We will announce it on our Facebook the next dates. And we are also working with the 2 authors and also other colleagues on a manual, on training. Ticket is called, maybe you have heard about that, where solidarity is a very important part. It's not a manual about solidarity, but solidarity is one of the strongest values there. I will not say more about it, but a manual is coming. And also we, as a resource center, we will organize a series of trainings on solidarity. We hope to organize them face-to-face. Let's see how the situation evolves. If not, we will move also parts online. So more to come, just stay with us.
Excellent, thank you. Since we're in this topic of looking at the future, I would also like to ask Susie and Snezana to close this. What is your wish that should happen with the 4Thought study? What should it cause? Now that it's out.
You didn't tell us you were going to ask us this question. We did all that preparation, and then you give us this grenade at the end. Do you have something, Snezana?
I was leaving the floor to you first, huh?
Oh. Yeah, I know that when the Solidarity Corps program started, for some people it came, and this is just Susie speaking, okay? I don't represent anyone's opinion here. For some people it really came top down from the policy level, and also from the EVS field of people. There was maybe some resentment or some needs which weren't always channeled in the right directions, or these kind of things. So my wish would really be for ownership, for the field to get ownership. And when I say field, I don't just mean youth workers across Europe. I mean all the different levels of all the different people to become in a solidary way, to own it, to feel it, and to own it, and for it not just to be a word on an application form, or the money that comes through the door. It should be more than that.
I think for me, my hope is that the report itself would stimulate conversations like it did now, or every time we presented it, I think, because I saw briefly that someone asked why was this not done before the program was launched. Simply because it wasn't, and then afterwards came the resource center, and afterwards came us. So I agree it should have been done, but it wasn't. But it's still not too late, because as it seems that the program will live on, and I hope that this report will stimulate reflections, discussions, and hopefully shape the practice, but also policy, and not in a way that what we recommend would shape policy, but that these discussions would then go forward and say, well, actually, it should be about climate crisis, yeah, or it should be about that or that, and so on and so forth, yeah. Yeah, and I hope it lives on, because I think it's time for us to let it go. So, yeah.
Can I have a wish?
Yes.
Can I have also? So my wish is to make history.
That's modest.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I think that is the moment for solidarity to be in the middle and to spread all around and to be an important stone in youth work and international youth work. And I also have another wish to keep this team, which is based with fantastic people. Also, I would like to say thanks to Anya from the Austrian National Agency that is also behind the scene. And I would like to keep the team and to expand it, to bring new events and new spaces to challenge, to discuss about solidarity, and yeah, to make history, as simple as that.
Okay, let's put it in indicators. Now, thank you so much. It's out now, finally. What a relief after such a long process. Thank you also to the Resource Center for hosting this event and for starting this series of Europe Talks Solidarity. So as Romina announced, more events will come and they will be announced on the website, on the Facebook page of the Solidarity Core Resource Center. This was the first one, the launch of 4Thought, everything you can download on the website afterwards. So let's keep talking about solidarity and even more, let's practice and live solidarity also, not just talk about it. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who was watching. See you soon again. Stay tuned to Europe Talks Solidarity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus, for your fantastic facilitation skills.
Thank you.
Thank you.